George Frederick Blanda was an American football quarterback and placekicker. Blanda has the distinction of having played 26 seasons of professional football, the most in the sport's history, and had scored more points than anyone in history at the time of his retirement. Blanda retired from pro football in 1976 at the age of 48. He was one of only 2 players to play in 4 different decades, and he holds the record for most extra points kicked. He was married to Betty Harris from December 17, 1949 until his death on September 27, 2010. He has 2 children. Blanda was the son of a Slovak-born Pittsburgh-area coal miner. Collegiate career, Blanda was a quarterback and kicker at Kentucky. Coach Paul Bear Bryant, who later won fame and set countless records at Southeastern Conference rival Alabama, arrived in his sophomore year, following a 1-9 season. The Wildcats lost 3 games in each of the next 3 years. Years later, returning to the University of Kentucky and recalling the time he met Bryant, Blanda said, "I thought this must be what God looks like." Blanda was the starting quarterback his last 2 seasons at Kentucky, compiling 120 completions in 242 passes, 1,451 yards and 12 touchdowns. Professional career Chicago Bears Blanda was signed by the Chicago Bears for $600 in 1949, an amount owner George Hillers demanded back when he made the team. While primarily used as a quarterback and placekicker, Blanda also saw time on the defensive side of the ball at linebacker. It would not be until 1953 that Blanda would emerge as the Bears' top signal caller, but an injury the following year effectively ended his first-string status. For the next 4 years, he was used mostly in a kicking capacity. Later commenting on his testy relationship with Hillers, Blanda noted, "He was too cheap to even buy me a kicking shoe." Blanda later reflected that by the 1950s the pro game had moved beyond Hillers, who seemed to lack the interest he had earlier. Houston Oilers Blanda retired after the 1958 NFL season because of Hillers' insistence on only using him as a kicker, but returned in 1960 upon the formation of the American Football League. He signed with the Houston Oilers as both a quarterback and kicker. He was derided by the sports media as an NFL reject, but he went on to lead the Oilers to the first 2 league titles in AFL history, and he was the All-AFL quarterback and won AFL Player of the Year honors in 1961. During that season, he led the AFL in passing yards and touchdown passes. His 36 touchdown passes in 1961 were the most ever thrown by any NFL-AFL quarterback in a single season, until matched by Y.A. Tittle of the NFL New York Giants just 2 years later in 1963. Blanda's and Tittle's mark would remain the record until surpassed by Dan Marino's 48 touchdown passes in 1984. Blanda's 42 interceptions thrown in 1962 is a record that still stands. During 1962, he had 2 400-yard passing days for the Oilers, a 464-yard effort against the Buffalo Bills on October 29, with 4 touchdown passes, and 418 yards 3 weeks later against the Titans of New York, this time with 7 touchdown passes in a 49-13 victory. Blanda passed for 36 touchdowns that season. On 13 occasions, he connected on 4 or more touchdown passes during a game, and on November 1, 1964, unleashed 68 passes for Houston against the Buffalo Bills. From 1963 to 1965, Blanda led the AFL in passing attempts and completions, and ranked in the top 10 for attempts, completions, yards and touchdowns during 7 consecutive seasons. A 4-time member of the American Football League All-Star Team, Blanda's already long career seemed over when he was released by the Oilers on March 18, 1967. However, the Oakland Raiders signed him that July, seeing his potential as a contributing backup passer and a dependable kicker. In later years, Blanda would remain a strong supporter of AFL heritage, saying, "That first year, the Houston Oilers or Los Angeles Chargers could have beaten the NFL champion in a Super Bowl." Blanda said further, "I think the AFL was capable of beating the NFL in a Super Bowl game as far back as 1960 or 61. I just regret we didn't get the chance to prove it." equals Oakland Raiders equals, in 1967, during Blanda's first season with the Raiders, his kicking skills helped him lead the AFL in scoring with 116 points. In 2 instances, his leg helped play a role in Raider victories. A trio of field goals helped upset the defending league champion Kansas City Chiefs on October 1. In the closing weeks of the regular season, Blanda booted 4 field goals behind a hostile Houston crowd in a 19-7 victory over his former team, the Oilers, helping gain a measure of revenge. The Raiders went on to compete in Super Bowl II, but lost the final 2 AFL championship games in the 10-year history of the league. In 1970, Blanda was released during the exhibition season, but bounced back to establish his 21st professional season. That season Blanda, at age 43, had a remarkable 5-game run. Against the Steelers, Blanda threw for 3 touchdowns in relief of an injured Dural LaMonica. 1 week later, his 48-yard field goal with 3 seconds remaining salvaged a 17-17 tie with the Kansas City Chiefs. On November 8, Blanda once again came off the bench to throw for a touchdown pass to tie the Cleveland Browns with 1:34 remaining, then kicked a 53-yard field goal with 0:03 left for the 23-20 win. Immediately after the winning field goal, Raiders radio announcer Bill King excitedly declared, "George Blanda has just been elected King of the World." In the team's next game, Blanda replaced LaMonica in the 4th quarter and connected with Fred Biltnikoff on a touchdown pass with 2:28 left in the game to defeat the Denver Broncos, 24-19. The streak concluded 1 week later when Blanda's 16-yard field goal in the closing seconds defeated the San Diego Chargers, 20-17. In the AFC title game against the Baltimore Colts, Blanda again relieved an injured LaMonica, completing 17 of 32 passes for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns while also kicking a 48-yard field goal and 2 extra points, keeping the Raiders in the game until the final quarter, when he was intercepted twice. Aged 43, he became the oldest quarterback ever to play in a championship game, and was one of the few remaining straight-ahead kickers in the NFL. Blanda's achievements resulted in his winning the Burt Bell Award. Chiefs owner Lamar Hunt said, "Why, this George Blanda is as good as his father, who used to play for Houston." Although he never again played a major role at quarterback, Blanda would serve as the Raiders' kicker for 5 more seasons. He played in his last game at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium on January 4, 1976, at age 48, in the 1975 AFC Championship game, where he kicked a 41-yard field goal and made 1 extra point as the Raiders lost to the Steelers 16-10. Career regular season statistics, career high best bolded. Records and honors. Blanda finished his 26 professional football seasons having completed 1,911 of 4,007 pass attempts for 26,920 yards and 236 touchdowns. Blanda also held the NFL record for most interceptions thrown with 277, until Brett Favre broke it on October 14, 2007. He rushed for 344 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground, kicked 335 of 641 field goals, and 943 of 959 extra points, giving him 2,002 total points. Additional stats include 1 interception, 2 kickoff returns for 19 yards, 22 punts for 809 yards, and 23 fumble recoveries. Blanda holds the following professional football records: passing TDs in a game, November 7, 1961 vs. New York Titans, most seasons played, 26, most seasons scoring a point, 26, one of 2 players to play in 4 different decades, most PATs made and attempted, most interceptions thrown, single season, 42, held record of most pass attempts in a single game, 68 until 1994 when Drew Bledsoe had 70, oldest player to play in an NFL game. 70091524182400000 unregistered trademark 48 years, 109 days, first player ever to score over 2,000 points, oldest quarterback to start a title game, most total points accounted for in a career, 3,418, He is the placekicker on the all-time All-AFL team, and was one of only 20 players to play all 10 years of the AFL, as well as one of only 3 who were in every AFL game their teams played. Blanda was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1981, his first year of eligibility, and also was inducted into the University of Kentucky Hall of Fame. Blanda held the record for most professional football games played with 340 until September 26, 2004, when it was broken by another placekicker, Morten Andersen, as well as the record for most consecutive games played until September 26, 1976 by defensive end Jim Marshall. His 114 postseason points were an NFL record at the time of his retirement. U.S. Route 119 in Blanda's hometown of Youngwood, Pennsylvania was renamed George Blanda Boulevard in 1985. In 1999, Blanda was ranked number 98 on the Sporting News list of the 100 greatest football players. Blanda was the first ever recorded fantasy football draft pick when the game was first created in 1962 by the Greater Oakland Professional Pigskin Prognosticators League. Death. According to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Blanda died after a short illness on September 27, 2010. He was 83 years old. A moment of silence was held in Blanda's honor prior to the start of the September 27, 2010 game between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, from Soldier Field. References in popular culture. The 1970s TV series Happy Days is set in 1950s Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In the Season 3 episode Football Frolics, Richie Cunningham and Ralph Malph are watching the November 9, 1956, Chicago Bears-Chicago Cardinals televised game. After Ed Brown's pass to Harlan Hill is intercepted by the Cardinals, Richie wants the other quarterback put in. Ralph says that quarterback is washed up. He's old. He's 30. He's got no future. Richie argues back, George Blanda has 2 or 3 good years left. The joke was that Blanda, 20 years later at the time of the show's filming, was still playing. See also, Other American Football League players, Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. References. George Blanda, The Old Man in ESPN Sports Century. Michael Mackenbridge, editor. New York, Hyperion ESPN Books. Pages 228. External links, George Blanda at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Career statistics and player information from NFL.com. A Eurocent Pro Football Reference.